ตอนนี้นะครับก็มีอีกหนึ่งเรื่องราวดีๆนะครับผมที่ทางด้านของสปีกเกอร์ของเรานะครับผมที่จะขึ้นมากล่าวนะครับบอกแล้วก็แชร์ประสบการณ์โดยตรงจากเขานั่นเองนะครับผมกับทางด้านของหัวข้อที่ว่า how to create and develop sport platform for customer นะครับผมในครั้งนี้นะครับก็เราจะมาพูดถึงนะครับเกี่ยวกับทางด้านของกีฬากันบ้างนะครับว่าจะเป็นอย่างไรกันบ้างนะครับโอเคเอาละครับแล้วก็ณตอนนี้สปีกเกอร์ก็พร้อมแล้วนะครับ Ladies and gentlemen please welcome Mr. Syed Daanish Suhail Chief Marketing Officer and Co-founder of Playo
Sawadee da bye Dubai. Is that correct? I'm sorry. My first time in Thailand here, loving the place, and how great is this conference? Why don't other conferences be like this? A big applause to the organizers, and thank you so much for having me over, Startup Thailand. Right, the sports startup industry. 3 words: massive, exciting, and endless opportunities. The startup industry in the sports sector is an industry that runs on passion. How is it different from other industries? Passion brings you loyalty, right? Of a sports fan, a person who loves playing a particular sport will be a die-hard fan of the particular sport or the club. Similarly, if you harness this passion, it can drive you great loyalty and a superb user base. Like, take me for instance. I'm an avid sports player. I've been playing Ultimate Frisbee back in India. And I was called in for this conference, but I didn't forget to bring my Frisbee along. I mean, that's the love of sports, that's the passion for sports. I'm sure I'll never travel without a Frisbee along now. And why not? I get to meet new people, I make new friends, and it's fun. Those are the kind of networking sessions I prefer. Right? But is sports that important in everyone's life? Sports may not be, right? So here's where I think, right. So this is Maslow's theory of needs. This sort of defines our priority of what we prioritize in life, right? So the first one is physiological and safety. Physiological is just basic food and shelter. That's our #1 priority, obviously, right? Second, it's safety. Do we have enough money? Do we have enough savings? Are we healthy, right? And then the next 2 categories is where sports really comes in. So we have love and belonging and esteem, right? Let's take belonging for that matter first. So belonging, sports is a group activity, or if it's an individual activity, you're playing with someone else. So you belong to a team or you belong to a certain community, right? So it brings you closer to people, socializes you with people, right? So that's what sports impacts. Next, coming to esteem, thumping your chest, punching the air with your fist, all of this only a sports fan or a sports team can bring out. The feeling when your team wins or when you score a goal, your esteem goes straight from here to here. That's what sports does to us, right? But sports is massive, right? It could be anything under the sun. So I've just broken down the sports industry into the following categories, right? So let's take professionals first, right? The professionals, these are players, these are athletes, these are coaching academies, these are sports teams, right? Now you could have an analytics app, you could maybe have a scoring app. There's a lot of opportunities there. But the market is a little small, but these guys pay a lot because this is their career, right? Now moving on to fans, huge, huge, huge. One of the biggest markets that sports sees, and this is where passion speaks. Professionals sort of, talks only in the esteem layer. Going back to the previous slide, it talks only in the esteem layer. Fans, however, talk in the esteem layer and belonging. Fans belong to a club. Fans respect and they drive their esteem through their sports team that they support, right? Now, fans now there are quite a few startups which are already in the space. It could be sports betting, fan engagement, fantasy leagues, all of that is there. Have something else in your mind? I'm all ears. Please come and meet me later, right? And now moving on to amateurs. That's us. That's the market. It's everyone. We've all played a sport someday in our life, and we can definitely harness that, right? And this is the industry we've built a startup on. It's called Playo. So I'm just going to tell you about my startup, Playo, what we do, so that you can relate to it better. So Playo is sort of a Tinder for sports. So let's say you want to play a game of badminton, a game of football, but you don't have a team to play with. Come on to Playo, right? You just let me know when you're playing, where you're playing, and I'll help you connect two people. The second bit of Playo, now I found my team, I found my partner, but where do I play? So we list down all venues across the city, and you can book them online through the app. We've, already, we launched about 3 years back. We're already in 2 countries, and trust me, it's a great market to be in. Now, I have a question for you all. Like, how many of you have ever played a sport? Can I have a raise of hands, please? How many of you have ever played a sport? Okay, the people who aren't raising their hands are definitely lying. We've all played a sport in our life, be it just with marbles, but we've definitely played a sport. But now, if I ask the same question, how many of us still play a sport? I'm sure I'll see very few hands up, right? So that's a big, big problem to solve. How about getting everyone back on the field? That's the problem Playo is trying to solve, and that's a big market to be in. Moving on now. How do you start? Do you know your users? Do you know what to ask them? Do you know where your user is? It's not just about asking the user, I'm building an app which does this and that. Will you use it? Every person will say yes. But when the app is launched, they won't be using your app. So it's about asking the right question. So there is an interesting book called The Mom Test. So let's say I make a painting, and I go show it to my mom. It might be the worst painting ever. She will say it's amazing. Your users are like that. You go to them, they will say they like the app. So you've got to go and ask the right questions. You've got to know whom to ask the questions and how to ask the questions. So my definite recommendation, The Mom Test. Please do read the book. Now you've studied your users, and you've started building your app. But how do you start marketing? Do you straight away go on social media and flood the market of sports? Maybe not. I'd say this is how we started, and it's worked for us. Find your first 1,000 on ground. Step out, meet them, go to where they are. Find playgrounds where you have a bunch of people playing. Ask them. Tell them about your app and see if they will use your app. If they aren't using your app, then there's definitely a problem with your app. Again, going back to user research, the previous slide, I missed out a point. User research, we love our ideas. We are too close to them. We are too possessive of them. So when we aren't getting the answers that we want, we think the users are dumb. But those answers are giving us answers to not do the app. Maybe your idea isn't good enough. So it's okay to accept user response and move ahead. Right? Now, coming back to marketing, touch the lower layers first. Now, out of, let's say, the 100 of us, 20 people said they played, right? So target the 20 first. Try to get them onto the app, because that's your prime audience. And then, that's where you find the kind of audience you want. So let's say I found him as my audience. I'd want to go look for similar people like him on social media. But I've got to find you personally first on ground, right? So so start offline before you go online. Now you're done with marketing, right? I mean, you've started. But what is sports? Sports is, let's say, a team. A team is run by a leader. There is an influencer who starts the team. There is an initiator to every sport, right? Oh, I just went, sorry, just a sec. So there is an initiator to every sport. So you've got to find these evangelists. These evangelists are your speakers. These people are your loudspeakers. They will talk about your app. You've got to find your brand ambassadors within your users. These people, you've got to talk to them as much as possible. They will tell you what your the next version of your app is going to be. They know the problems your apps are facing. They will be honest to you because they love your brand and they're passionate about your brand, right? Moving on. Sports is a funny industry. Until a person or a fan doesn't associate with your brand, they will find other ways to go play. I do not need an app to play. If I want to play, I will play. I don't need to stay on your app. Second, sports is a latent need. It's not a necessity at all. I don't have to do this daily, right? So you've got to make sure you remind people to do this again and again. So how do you do this? You've got to gamify the app. You've got to create a loyalty program around the app. It's very necessary, especially for a sports app, where you're trying to make money out of them, right? So these are a few challenges that we faced, and we've still figuring our way out. We've got to a certain scale. There's a long way to go, though. You've finally retained your user. A company won't work without a revenue model. Like, how do you earn revenue through a sports app, right? Now, let me take the example of Playo. We have a number of venues, let's say about 100 badminton venues across the city, right? People book on the app, people find venues, and we drive business to these venues. That's when we get a commission out of these, right? And the best thing about a sports user is the lifetime value of a sports user is huge, because once a person starts playing, he wants to keep playing. And you've got to be the channel through which he plays every day, or maybe twice a week. And you've got that commission rolling in through the week, through the months, through the years, right? So value your users more than your customers, your partners rather. Second is ads. You've got an active audience, a fit audience, an audience which the rest of them look up to, right? Can you post, can you give out, can you show them the right ads, relevant ads? That's a great revenue model right there. We've been trying that, and that's honestly soon will probably overtake commission out there, right? And finally, moving on to cross-sell. I know how often you play. I know where you play. I know which sport you play. Wouldn't it be right to sell you the right shoes at the right time, selling you the right racket, the right jerseys, tickets to the right game, maybe advertise another sports engagement app? All of this comes through cross-sell. There's huge potential in terms of a sports app, the revenues that you can make out of a sports app. It's like the theme of the Startup Thailand goes, endless opportunities out there. And finally, this is the truth, guys. It's a difficult problem, but it's a great problem to solve. There's, not too many people who are doing this, and it's for a certain reason. It's just hard. But can you figure a way out? If you can, there's no one that can overtake you. That itself is a great barrier that you're creating out there. And I'd like to leave you guys with my favorite quote about sports. This is from an ultimate frisbee player back in the US, Hannah Kawai. So she talks about sports is the place where I started valuing my body for what it could do rather than what it looked like. I think that's just gold, right? And that's about it, guys. I'm done with that, and you can always get in touch with me. These are my handles. Any questions you guys like to pose, please let me know. Happy to answer. Thank you.
ครับผมขอบคุณมากนะครับ Thank you very much Mr. Syed Daanish who Suhail นะครับผมเอาละครับก็